Let's go check the. Okay, why is it okay? I have to keep reloading this. Mm, is it live? I'm like, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, I had to like refresh it like maybe 8 times. Hey. Yep, it says stream will be starting soon. I'll just wait until it actually shows. Oh yeah, I actually got a new thing, G.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you actually go on the live stream, it's a new setup.
Love it. Okay, I'm gonna just quickly promote it before I forget.
Very beautiful. All right. All right, looks like we are live. All right, welcome everyone to the 5th episode of the Lucky Charm podcast. And we will be discussing the season 4 episodes of Miraculous Ladybug. And of course, I am here with G, aka the Cartoon Hotspot.
Hi, everyone.
Oh my gosh. Season 4. Oh my gosh. I don't know where to start. Like, I think the first 2 episodes we could talk about because they basically are linked to each other when you think about it. Um, like truth and lies. That's a very interesting way to start off season 4. And according to this, truth is first. So this is where the truth is basically where Luca gets akumatized into truth. And this is from Marinette's perspective where she keeps ditching dates with Luca, to protect Paris's ladybug. And and what did you think of this episode, G?
Um, I really liked Truth as an episode, and I think I really like the idea of Truth and Lies being parallel episodes because we've never seen that before. Um, and I love the idea of like it being Marinette's perspective and then Lies being Adrian's perspective. But specifically on Truth, I think it was a great continuation from the season 3 finale, because in the finale of season 3 we had Lucanet and Ajigami
Mhm.
become not canon, but they started dating. And there's a common like misconception that, oh, they were like boyfriend and girlfriend. I actually disagree. I think they were just, dating, because a lot of people think dating and being a relationship is synonymous, like they're used synonymously, when they're actually two different things. Like you can date someone, but you're not in a relationship with them. So like I think it was an interesting episode to see what a possible relationship between Luca and Marinette could be, and we see straight away like it's just not going to work because of Marinette's duties as the guardian. I love how we see her struggling with, not disciplining, but like, the Kwamis are so chaotic and everything. So we generally do see her struggle with, the responsibilities that being the guardian entails. And there's even like a line where like, um, I think when she's like at the top of Montpenon's tower and Cat Noir like scares her, sneaks up on her and scares her. It's
Mhm.
implied that they really haven't seen each other much often because of how busy Ladybug has been. I feel like the only downside about Truth other than it being like, it was a pretty decent episode. I think the only downside about Truth is that like it's right after the season 3 finale, and
Mhm.
we just don't get enough of Luke and Annette content. Now, I'm not a major fan of Luke and Annette, but I do really feel like they weren't done justice because they got together or they start dating in the season 3 finale, then they break up literally an episode later. And in that timeline, it's about like 2 weeks between the events of season 3's finale and the start of season 4. So they really only just hung out for about 2 weeks. Which is a bit fair enough. Like some relationships only last for that long. You know, when you're getting to know someone, and you're like, you know what, like this isn't gonna work, so you end it off. Like, that is understandable. But I feel like for friends that have known each other for a bit of time, I think they would have lasted a bit longer, and we really should have seen the real cracks in their relationship. So yeah, Truth was an okay begin to okay opening for season 4. Could have been stronger, but I really do like it.
I'm very curious to know what was your thoughts when Luca finds out that Jagged Stone is his and Julica's father. Like, did it just come out of nowhere, or you kind of felt like, why didn't they build this up, you know, until it was the reveal? Like, I'm very curious to know.
Looking back at it, I really do think it comes out of nowhere, but no at the same time. Like we knew somewhere, like um, we knew from I think it was season 3, and I think it was the episode Desperada, that there was some tension between Luca's mother, I think her name is Anarcha, and Jagged Stone. But we just never thought like that tension would be, oh, like they, used to be a thing, and he is Luca's father. I do think there could have been more build up because in that episode, Desperado, like Jagged Stone pretends like he doesn't even know who his own son is, which is like, okay, like that's very weird of him. And I don't understand how people like just forget like Jagged Stone is pretty much like an absent father. Like we give a lot of like we talk a lot about Andre and Gabriel and all the other terrible dads in Miraculous, Sabrina's dad, whoever else you want to name, but we don't really talk about Jagged Stone, and I feel like he deserves just as much heat because you abandoned your kids for 15 years, pretending you didn't know them, and yeah, it was just really weird. But I do feel like it did come out of nowhere because I think it could have been in another episode, the reveal that Jagged Stone and Luca are related, and by extension, Jagged Stone and Julica. Um, because I feel like the episode Truth should have been solely focused on Marinette and Luca's relationship. So just adding in the Jagged Stone drama just kind of threw it all off, and it's like, wait, what are we supposed to be focusing on? It felt a bit too cramped up, which is why I think the episode Lies is a much tighter episode because it only solely focuses on Adrian and Kagami's relationship and why that relationship won't work.
Yeah. It kind of felt like for Truth, it's like, which one are we supposed to be focusing on? I thought it's supposed to be that it's supposed to show us that Marinette and Luca's relationship wouldn't really work because she can't really tell him about her secret, being the guardian of the Miraculous and being Ladybug. But then it's kind of like, maybe you should have put this in an earlier episode. So, so it wouldn't feel cramped, like I totally agree. Like Truth was an okay episode, but at the same time, adding in the Jagged is Luca and Julica's father kind of did throw the episode off where it's like, this doesn't feel as cohesive. I totally agree on that in retrospect when I look at it now. Yeah, so I would say Lies, like I do agree, Lies was a much better episode because it was more cohesive and you can kind of slowly see every time Adrian had to lie to Kagami to ditch several of their dates to protect Paris's Cat Noir. And And you can slowly see that Kagami is slowly starting to become heartbroken. So over that, like I feel like Lies is kind of the stronger episode of the two, because it solely focuses on Kagami like slowly starting to break every time he ditches her. Um,
Right.
so I do agree, Lies is a much better episode than staying cohesive and just focusing on Kagami and Adrian, and and I think it was a much cohesive episode overall for Lies, yeah, and everything. But yeah, I do agree. Truth and Lies is kind of like this should have been like, why did they kind of jump the gutter, if you know what I mean? Like, it's like we see them, we see Luke and Net and Ajigami at the end of season 3. We're like, okay, is this gonna last long? And then first 2 episodes of season 4, nope, we're just gonna drop both of them. I'm like, snap. I didn't think that was gonna be that fast.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder why, because now that, because like, okay, fair enough. Like, we're saying that they should have not broken up that instantly in that episode. But I generally can't imagine what could have been replaced as Truth and Lies. I think
Mhm,
instead of them breaking up, maybe just having a conversation like, oh, okay, like something's going on, but we'll, keep trying and we'll see how it goes further on. And then somewhere around the maybe like later on in the season, maybe like a couple episodes by, that's when they like break up because then it feel more natural. Um,
mhm,
so yeah, I don't really understand the point of them breaking up so soon, because you could argue like, oh, just to develop Lady Noir, but you can do that regardless of whether Lucanet and
mhm,
Adrian and Lucanet and Adrigami are together. Like you can do that simultaneously, because like I said, we kind of already started getting more Lady Noir hints in the first episode where um Marinette was becoming more and more busy, and so she wasn't really showing up for the patrols. And kind of was like, oh, like you're busy, I get it, but you could tell he was, quite like disheartened about it. So yeah, I don't know. I do wish they did get their development
mhm,
though, because um, it's one thing telling us that Lukina and Adrigami will not work for these reasons, but then it's another thing showing us. And I feel like they just did more of the telling rather than showing, because
mhm,
Lukina and Adrigami do have their strengths. We just never
mhm,
really got to see their strength. We just kind of got to see their flaws, and I don't think it really gave them much of a fair fight. Like if you want us to
mhm,
root for Adrianette, you need to fully show us like, although Lucan and Adrigami did have like their strengths, ultimately this is why Adrianette or Lady Noir or any ship in the Love Square is stronger than these side ships.
mhm. Yeah, like yeah, I do agree. It's like Truth and Lies. Like I kind of like how like these 2 episodes are connected. Because when you think about it in in retrospect, Truth and Lies do go hand in hand, because um they can't really tell the truth to Kagami and Luca, and they have to lie about it. So they're both technically doing it
Yeah.
in technicalities. So you could say truth and lies do go together, because if you lie, eventually the truth will come out, but since both Adrian and Marinette can't tell the truth to who they're with, it's like, they have to constantly come up with excuses, and stuff. So I think it was very clever to put Truth and Lies as like the title of these episodes, because they go hand in hand, in the context of Miraculous. So I think it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I also really love how like we see one scene from Marinette's point of view, and then the writers, like I do have to give them kudos for this. And then the writers in the next episode will make sure to track that scene and make sure to show it from Adrian's point of view. And I think that's really cool. So everything kind of matched up because if you like, I think I don't know whose channel I came across it or if someone on Twitter did it, but they kind of broke up beat both of the episodes and then put them together to show like, oh, this was happening at this time. It was really interesting to see.
Yeah, I love when episodes do that because it's kind of like you see it from another character's perspective, and it kind of makes great pacing because from like with Truth, it's mostly from Marinette's perspective, and then Lies is from Adrian's perspective. I wish they kind of did that in more episodes of Miraculous, you know, because I think it was a clever way to show both sides of the same coin, because they're
Right.
technically the same episode, but just from different perspectives. Um, so I think that was clever on their part. I wish they kind of did more episodes like this in Miraculous, actually. Um, but but the way they cleverly did it for Truth and Lies just made a whole lot of sense. So I would say it was an interesting start to season 4 for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about Gang of Secrets. I want to know your thoughts about this episode.
I Gang of Secrets. Oh my gosh, I vividly remember when it came out. Um, I remember it was a French premiere, so it was TF TF1 that was premiering it, and it was supposed to come out like a specific time, but for some reason it came out 1 hour earlier. So I logged in and I was like, wait, no spoilers. Um, the episode generally felt to me it was probably one of the most like emotionally invoking episodes I have watched from Miraculous, and I rarely say this, and I rarely cry when watching Miraculous episodes, but I feel like Gang of Secrets really did like hit the nail on the head. Everything about it was like really good. The start, the middle, the ending, how we see Marinette slowly um, losing it, and like she's just completely alone, and we really get a lot of insight into Marinette's character, like being a hero and most importantly being the guardian is a very lonely experience, and we kind of see how Master Fu could have possibly felt through Marinette because she's experiencing the same thing that he possibly felt, and it's like we just feel so bad for her because like she didn't ask for any of this,
Mhm.
but she has to go through it. She can't just like give up and just say yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Like she genuinely is stuck with that responsibility.
Mhm.
um, and I just love how like they showed, at least in my opinion, like the side effects of having such a big burden at that specific age. It kind of leads to depression, isolation as well. Like they did a really good job
Mhm.
of showing that. Like she was just isolating herself from every single person, with from Alia, from Adrian, from her parents as well. Um, yeah, no, it was a really good episode. And then at the end, like she finally realized like I don't have to go through the same exact thing that Master Fu went through. I don't have to do this alone. Like yeah, I could follow the rules of like follow the rules, and that's what I really like about like season 4. It's about like breaking certain rules and just establishing your own. I don't have to follow the rules of keeping everything a secret. I can let someone know, provided it's not cat noir, but I can still let somebody know. And her just breaking down and telling Alia at the end of the episode, and then Alia's reaction was just perfect as well. Like I couldn't have asked for a better reaction from Alia. It was just like it was just really strong episode.
Mhm. I do agree. Gang of Secrets was definitely emotion evoking because the girls are worried about Marinette. They're like, Marinette, they were genuinely like concerned about her, and it really shows the girls' friendships with Marinette, you know, and and I do agree, like having that responsibility, because it's basically like she was just thrusted into this role because of circumstances, and and then at least like I was pretty glad she told Alia because Alia is her best friend, and she felt like she can confide in her, you know and I think it's like a good lesson, it's a good life lesson that if something is like, if you feel so much burden on yourself, like you can always reach out to someone. Like don't isolate yourself, you know, because literally Marinette looked like she was reaching her breaking point in this episode. And this was just barely starting season 4, if anything. Like she's like already stressed out. She's like, how did Master Fu do this for so many years, right? Like how was he the guardian for so many years? Did he ever feel this stuff, like feeling the weight of the responsibility, you know? Because it kind of sucks that she can't really rely on Cat Noir. She can't tell him who she is. Um and then she's like, you know what? I do need to tell someone, you know, and she just had to let Alia know. So I think it made a lot of sense for her to tell Alia first, because that's literally her best friend. And 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 yeah, I think Gang of Secrets was a very thought like provoking episode. It makes you like look into it, from a lens of like don't ever isolate yourself if you have so much burdens and responsibilities. You can always talk to someone. It's like a good lesson learned type of episode, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Also,
would.
Alia being the first person to actually break out um, of Hawk Moth's or Shadow Moth's. He keeps changing his name, so I keep losing track. Shadow Moth's influence. That was really, really cool to see. It's like it was kind of like a parallel. Like Ladybug helped Alia break out of Shadow Moth's influence, like truly, like she was already akumatized and she not persuaded, but like she helped and encouraged Alia to break free from Shadow Moth's influence. And then in turn, at the end of the episode, um, Alia helped Marinette break free from that, not cycle, but break free from that like need to isolate and keep everything to yourself. So I think I really liked the parallel, and I really liked how Gang of Secrets depicts a lot of themes of friendship, themes of like depression, themes of how much can you handle before you eventually reach your breaking point.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I do agree. The parallel was there, like. The fact is that like it really shows that like at least she was able to help Alia deakumatize herself and everything. So Gang of Secrets was a very solid episode. um we can see like the girls' friendships with Marinette in that, and it was very wholesome. It's a very lesson learned. you know um how much are you going to take until you actually tell someone? So it's it definitely was like a life-changing lesson where it's like you don't have to handle all of your burdens by yourself. You could always like talk to someone. And and I think it's a very important lesson, to teach kids, especially, that it's okay to, talk to someone or vent out your problems to someone, especially if they're concerned with you. I think it's a very special lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. um, let what are your thoughts on Mr. Pigeon 72?
Okay, Mr. Pigeon. I Looking back at it, when I first watched it, I didn't mind it. looking back at it now, I still don't mind it, but I definitely do think it's not a strong episode, and that's fine. Like, not every episode has to be a strong episode. Um, so Mr. Pigeon 72 was the episode where Mr. Pigeon was acclimatized for the 72nd time, which is a bit okay, like enough now. Like, how often do you need to get acclimatized and keep losing? So, come on. Um, I like how it directly continued on from Gang of Secrets, and that's one thing about season four. There's actually like continuation, so you did need to watch it in order. Because one thing about Miraculous is like the episodes do feel like disjointed scenes. Like it would end on one episode, like one cliffhanger or something, and then the next episode just wouldn't address it at all until like 10 episodes later. But so far we're going strong with season four. So it directly continued on from Gang of Secrets, whereby Alia and Marinette were in her room and they were trying to, figure out like what to do and how to, make something to help people suffering from, reoccurring acclimatization. Um, and clearly Marinette was getting nowhere because she was just hitting a dead end. Like she didn't understand anything in the grimoire. She was building things here and there. Nothing was working. So Alia was like, you know what? You need to take a break. Let me figure it out. But you take a break. And I I think what she did to distract herself was that she went to hang out with Kagami. And a part of me feels like, although she was saying that she was trying to help Kagami, get through her breakup, a part of her just kind of just, I don't know, wanted to see Adrian because she just knew his schedule and knew that he'd be at the swimming pool. Um, yeah, no, I don't really have much to say about Mr. Pigeon 72. I do like how at the end, towards the end, Alia figured it out and Ladybug was able to create a new suit and make the magical charms. Although I really do wish the magical charms were actually durable, because I know like later on the magical charms end up like just being basically useless against Hookmon's power. I did like the idea of like Ladybug powers are only limited because she's putting those limits on herself,
Mm-hmm.
and because she's the literal embodiment of creation, she can create as much as she wants, to the best of her, like to her own determination. So I don't know, I really like that. And I liked how Alia helped her see that. In regards to the reverse, people call it the reverse umbrella scene, but I feel like nothing really reversed because like everything was just pretty much the same after that. But in regards to the reverse umbrella scene, I don't know. I feel like this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't really feel anything from it. Like I was just like, oh, this is cute, and then yeah, I didn't really think of it as anything like majorly crazy. Like, oh, the reverse square is happening, because it didn't happen until like way into season five.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think what was very interesting is in that episode where because Adrian got turned into a pigeon in that episode. So
Yeah.
and then Ladybug's like, Plag, you're gonna have to do it. Oh man. Like he didn't want to do it. It's like, boy, it's like your holder just literally got turned into a pigeon. There's you don't really have much of a choice in the matter in that in that whole thing. And and I kind of like how Alia was able to capture Ladybug and Cat Noir's personality through the illusion. I think that was very clever. Like and stuff and I think what was really cool is that when Mr. Pigeon tried to jump into the pool, right? Because they the fake illusions through the items into the water, and then Plag just comes out of the the ball and then just takes the whistle, and that sound effect just made me laugh. I'm just like, why does this look like it's from Looney Tunes or something? Like the way it looked, I was just like, I don't know, are they trying to go for a Looney Tunes feel here? Because there was a sound effect that made me laugh so hard at this. I was like, I can't take this seriously. Like that scene made me laugh like so much. I was just like, I was like, are they trying to make this look Looney Tunes, I guess? But um I still find it crazy. Like before even season 5 came out, we find out that Mr. Ramier was akumatized 71 times until this episode. I'm like, wow. I guess I guess Shadow Moth must be on an off day if he can akumatize this dude for like the 72nd time. And I'm just like, and the fact that Alia says he's been akumatized 72, like 71 times, I was just like, yeah, apparently that's his off day. I guess that's Shadow Moth's off day. Like akumatizing the same dude and still failing. um, but yeah, I think what was yeah, I think I'm like you, G, when it came to the reverse umbrella, where it's like it's a cute scene. It's like nothing too major about it. It was just like Kagami was trying to tell Marinette that like, hey, you need to pursue him because it's obvious that you're made for him. And the fact is that she was in the car and she just looks at the both of them and she's like, she just knows it, even though she felt like it should have been her, but then she realized that like Marinette, Adrian's schedule, even though that is like impossible in reality to know someone's schedule. But overall, yeah, like this episode was a pretty interesting episode. You know, they kind of use like the fact that Plague had to take Cat Noir's place in this episode. But I still found it weird that like for the commercial aspect that Adrian was supposed to shoot, I was just like, I found it confusing because I was like, does Gabriel not know his son is allergic to pigeons? I'm just wondering about this. I'm just like, does he not know that his son's allergic to pigeons? But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if Gabriel didn't know. Because Gabriel barely knows his son. um, but yeah. I kind of like more like the I kind of like more the aspect of you know, Marinette and Alia in the episode and stuff. So I think it was a pretty interesting episode. About like Alia giving Marinette the answer to, oh, maybe you can create something that could propel the magic of akumatization. So
Yeah.
I think it was an interesting episode, for the most part. Ooh. Oh my gosh, this episode. Furious Foo. What did you think of this episode?
Okay, so Furious Foo. I remember that episode actually coming out first before even Truth and Lies. I think it's because like Disney Channel Germany or Gloob, I can't really remember which one, decided to just like premiere that episode super early. Um, but I don't know, that episode, it's okay. Like it's okay of an episode. I think that's the episode where Suhan
Mm,
made his debut. And that was still when Marinette was like struggling to kind of, deal with the responsibilities of looking after the Kwamis because they were just like so like boisterous and like energetic. And she was like, I can't deal with any of this. And she finds out that Master Fu is coming back to Paris for some time with Marianne.
mm-hmm.
And so she decides to go meet with him and take the Kwamis with her because they miss their previous guardian, which I think that was so cute. But taking like 12, how many Kwamis there are, 12 Kwamis, and putting them in her backpack was a bit risky, Marinette. So maybe not one of the smartest ideas you've had.
Mhm.
That episode did really get me wondering though, because I've always wondered this. Does Marianne know know Ladybug is Marinette? Because there is no reason why she wouldn't know.
Mm.
Because like at the end of season 3, Master Fu loses his memory, and Marianne was a previous owner of the Miraculous. At least she used she used the Ladybug Miraculous at one point. That's all we know. And she had to flee because she was running with Master Fu, but they had to separate. So now knowing that like he's lost his memory, she should know. At least if she knows the whole deal with the miraculous box and surrendering the or relinquishing control of it, like that would be entailed. So I'm just wondering, like, okay, so this Master Fu suddenly just lost his memory. Now he's moving to London. He's no longer the guardian. Somebody else close to him has to be aware of like the whole miracle box. I've seen Ladybug. I've seen Marinette. These are the only two people. Like I would have put two and two together if I were her, which is why I've always been really convinced that she knows Ladybug is Marinette, but then apparently she doesn't know. So I was just very confused by that. But other than that, like I do like the idea of Master Fu coming back. I think people were excited to see him again because he was not a beloved character, but like a nostalgic character, let's just say. And then Suhan spying on Marinette like was creepy and weird. I get why he was doing it, but it was still like really off-putting. Um, yeah, and then he sees Master Fu, but he's not aware that Master Fu has relinquished control over the Guardian box, so he's lost his memory. I think the episode was like okay in terms of delivering the message that like things can change. Um, and just because they have changed, that doesn't mean they're any less reliable because Marinette did prove to be a decent um, guardian from what Master Suhan can see. So he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll just keep an eye on you here and there." And then he just never kept an eye on her throughout the entirety of season 4. He just disappeared. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, Furious Few was an okay episode. It's not my favorite, but it's not an episode that I hate. I feel like it's very forgettable.
Mm.
And when I'm rewatching season 4, I don't really rewatch Furious Few. I just kind of skip that episode.
Mm. Gotcha. I think like it kind of gives more of a lore dump, you know? It's more of like a lore episode where we get to see a celestial guardian and he and and we kind of learn more that like basically guardians are trained, you know, in case of any of the people that they choose to be a holder kind of goes rogue, they know how to fight them even when they're masked, you know. And I found that very interesting. I found that an interesting thing, but it makes a whole lot of sense though. um I think that was an interesting from a lore perspective because it's like we kind of learn a bit more. Um, where and then I think when they did fight Suhan, they were like, "How is this guy able to keep up with us?" And then he's like, "Oh, guardians are trained to combat like holders if they go rogue, you know, or anything." I find that very interesting. I was like, pretty much he could go toe to toe with Shadow Moth if he wanted to, because he literally is trained, you know, to combat like the holder, you know, if they're even if they're transformed. That I think that was the interesting part about that episode, I would say, for me.
I just remembered actually, now that you mentioned a bit of the lore, I just remembered that in the episode when Suhan turns up at Marinette's room and he's like, "Do you not know the identity of Cat Noir?" Which goes to show like in the past they did know each other's identities, or at least that they're supposed to know. Um,
Mhm.
each other's identity. So it tells us that the whole secret identity stuff was a rule imposed by Master Fu. Um, and he was the one that really like ingrained it in their heads to like never tell your identity, never tell your identity, never tell your identity. When Suhan is like, no, if you're the guardian, first of all, you should know the identity of the holders. But then again, Ladybug, it's implied that Ladybug is the first guardian to also be a holder of a miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting to see, like, oh, a lot, Miss Master Fu did change a lot, and a lot of the rules that he imposed weren't rules that were originally set. Like, he was the one that enforced them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you could say that like one of the rules of the guardians, like whoever's guarding the miracle box is that they can only choose adult holders, but Master Fu defied that rule and he chose teenagers,
Right.
because that's another one of the rules because Suhan's like because he did believe at first that like Marinette is not worthy to be the guardian. It's like a- and then he was so surprised to find out that they're teenagers. It's like Master Fu, and then he was kind of like degrading Master Fu a bit about like and he's like, I still can't believe Master Fu chose you as holders because you're just teenagers, because in tradition, I'm presuming all of the previous holders were adults, you know, but as we know, the reason they traditionally they choose adults is because it takes longer for them to detransform, you know, and everything. So you could see that Suhan was kind of like, man, Master Fu kind of like defied some of our traditional rules and stuff. So but then at least, at least they managed to prove themselves. And then Suhan's like, okay, all it's like you've proven yourselves. It's like even though you're not an adult, all I trust it's like you have proven yourself to me that you can be um that you can be the guardian of the miracle box. but
Right.
I But I think he did say he'll watch from afar though. Just as a safety precaution. Um but it makes a lot of sense because he wants to be sure that, um that nothing bad happens to the miracle box because he is a celestial guardian, so um but overall it was a pretty decent episode in my opinion because of the lore dump, you could say it's like on the same level as Feast, if it's like showing lore, more lore in the show, then I always welcome those types of episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Soul Crusher. What are your thoughts on Soul Crusher?
Oh, Soul Crusher is the one with Zoe. I really, really like Soul Crusher. I feel like Soul Crusher is so underrated, but I genuinely do like Soul Crusher. I do find it a bit weird though, because a lot of criticisms about the episode, but it's technically criticisms about the writing of the overall show, is that Zoe was introduced far too late into the series, which I do agree. I think they should have at least mentioned her earlier on in the series. But if we're just looking at Soul Crusher as a standalone episode, I generally do enjoy it. I think it's a comfort watch because I enjoy the fact that Zoe was just, leaving New York. She was bullied, so she decided to move to Paris. But she didn't know that the people that she was going to move in with, her half sister, her mother, and her stepfather, were going to be like equally horrible people. Well, minus her stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think it's just a really like cute episode where Zoe was just trying to find her place. She meets Marinette, and Marinette is just so sweet at first sight, and introduces her. I think we like if we ever like move to somewhere new and we're just alone. I think we need to meet someone like Marinette to introduce us to like a bunch of friends and make us feel so welcome. And I really like how like Chloe's influence had an impact on Zoe's life, and Marinette was like, no, something's odd. Like the Zoe I met earlier on this morning was so sweet and so nice, so it must be Chloe. And she was just so patient with Zoe. Um, and yeah, I just really like that episode. I like the concept of Zoe's akumatization, specifically like her look, because when spoilers of the episode first came out, I was like, oh wait, this is Chloe getting akumatized, like another Chloe akumatization. But then we realized no, it was actually Zoe. It's just that Zoe looks a lot like Chloe in akumatization form, and I think that was really smart to show like, oh, Zoe wanted to be, or like I think what was said is that Chloe was saying like, you will never be me, like blah blah blah. So Zoe was akumatized into a literal like carbon copy of Chloe. She looked exactly like Chloe, dressed like Chloe, wore gold like Chloe, to symbolize that Zoe kind of feels like she can't be her own person. And I found that really smart. I generally did enjoy that part of the episode. And I enjoyed the very end of the episode where she came clean and she told them like what went wrong, and they were just all very supportive of her. Yeah, I really did enjoy the episode. I think it was a really nice episode. It was a comfort watch for sure.
Yeah, I feel like, Zoe's background is very relatable, in terms of like you want to fit in, so you decide to like, be like you try to be like the person who, you know, she tried to act like her mother and her half sister, but then, it wasn't really working for her, and then and I do agree. I kind of feel like you need to meet someone like Marinette where it's it's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. Just be yourself and the right people will come into your life. And I think it's a very important lesson to learn. Like, don't follow the crowd. Just be yourself. And I think meeting Marinette was like by chance too. I think it was like Marinette kind of opened her eyes into like, oh, I it's like I don't have to fall into the trap like I did when I was in New York. I can just be myself and no one's gonna judge me. Because I think Zoe mentioned that like she got bullied because of her mom, the way her mom behaved, I think. I think that was mentioned in the episode somewhere. But I think, so like for those who have trouble, starting in a new place, moving to a new place and then making new friends, it's a very relatable thing. um and I think lots of kids can relate to that, you know um I know I can relate to that. I remember when I first moved. um so it's definitely a comfort watch, because if you've been in Zoe's shoes, then you kind of know what she's feeling, you know and it's really cool because what's I actually got to meet the VA for Zoe Lee last year at San Diego Comic-Con. I managed to bump into her after a panel, so I did get to meet the voice of Zoe Lee. She's really super nice though.
Yeah, no, yeah, the voice actress for Zoe's like really nice. I remember when Zoe's debut episode came out and she was doing like a lot of interviews and she was talking about Zoe, and yeah, she's super sweet. I'm glad you got to meet her.
Yeah, like yes, Soul Crusher definitely a solid episode. If for any of you who've been in Zoe's shoes about moving to a new place and then you want to fit in, just be yourself. She learned that from Marinette. I think the very first impression when they first meet, like I think Marinette ended up tripping on her, right? If I remember correctly. um, but I kind of like how Marinette kind of had benefit of the doubt. She's like something's not right, because she's like the Zoe I know. And when I first met her, she was nice, and I kind of like how Marinette didn't jump to conclusions about Zoe. I think that's what I love about Marinette in this episode. Like when it comes to Chloe, Marinette's always gonna jump to conclusion, but when it came to Zoe, she didn't jump to conclusion. So I think that's what I loved about Marinette in this episode. She didn't jump to conclusion about Zoe. Um, but yeah, I love Zoe's debut episode. Very solid. Ooh, okay. How about your thoughts on Queen Banana?
Um, it's not my fave. I think I actually get annoyed a lot when coming across Queen Banana because I do really feel like one, we just met Zoe and she's already getting a miraculous.
Mm.
So it was just very much pushing the whole Chloe versus Zoe agenda that Thomas Astrup was, heavily trying to instill. Um, Secondly, I feel like it was just the point where like Chloe's like character was just not even like a character. She was just very much a comic relief, but like in an annoying way. Like we went from
Mm.
Chloe's accumatizations being quite like nuanced and like there was some layers to it, and now she's literally just throwing bananas and shouting banana boom boom or whatever her phrase was. So it was just very like I don't know. I think that was the first time I truly did get irritated with Chloe. I was like, okay, she's not fun to watch anymore. I'm not interested in this. This is a weird episode. Um, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, um, I think what was I kind of like though that like Zoe pushed back a bit, where when Marinette gave her the bee, she's kind of like, but Chloe's gonna be furious. She used to be Queen Bee. Like, I kind of like how Zoe was like hesitant at first. Like she didn't just accept the role. She was like very hesitant at first because she's like, I don't know if I can do this, and everything. So I kind of like how Zoe is like, I'm not trying to replace her, you know. Like she's showing that she's not a character trying to replace Chloe, as she was hesitant, because she's like, I don't know if I'll be good at this, or anything. So at least, Zoe kind of like understood the gravity of like, if I accept this, Chloe's gonna be mad, you know, and, and Chloe did go bananas, literally in this episode. um, but um, but I think I'm very curious. What did you think of her transformation sequence for Zoe?
I think it was really cute. How does she remember the most? Yeah, I think it was really cute. I don't think it outsells Chloe's transformation. I generally do think Chloe's transformation is probably one of the top five, if not top three, like hero superhero transformations in Miraculous. But Zoe's transformation was like not bad. It was really cute as well. I do kind of find it weird how she mastered her powers like pretty quickly.
Mm.
Considering like she's never been like she's only been in Paris for a couple of weeks, so she's only just met Ladybug. Yeah, it was just kind of like odd to me, but other than that, no, her transformation was like really cute. It suited her a lot. I feel like transformations should really suit the personality of the holder, and I really do think it did like embody her personality.
Mm. Yeah, like I definitely agree. I think accompanied with the music too. Really, I think they really wanted to make her stand out from Chloe, you know, because if they made it so similar to Chloe, the Miraculous fandom's gonna be mad. So that's why they had to make her transformation so different. Because if you remember, Chloe put the hair comb like in front of her on her hair. Meanwhile, with
Right.
Zoe, she has to put it in the back, and then that's how she ends up getting the braided hair. Um, I think someone pointed out what I loved about it. I think from what people pointed out, when it was revealed what Zoe's um outfit looks like, it really does look like a wasp. And I love how people pointed that out, because how bees and wasps look very similar, I think. I think Vesperia, it's supposed to be something very similar to a bee from from what I looked up about it. I'm like, oh, that's why. And then someone pointed out, oh, I love how it mirrors this, and it looks very similar to a bee. So I think that was a really cool detail that they did, with changing it up, with Zoe. What did you think? Like, did you notice that I know someone pointed it out that it was literally looks like, I think they said it was like, if I know, a Vespa or something, or yeah, I'm trying to remember, but I know they said something that it was very similar to a bee, and it was literally that's why they're called Vesperia, or something. It was something
I
similar to a bee.
I did not know that actually. I didn't realize that little detail um at all. So like this is something completely new that I'm hearing.
Oh, I saw it on, like, I think on Twitter or something. Like, they said it literally looked very similar to a bee, and that's why they said it was like, and that's why the name is Vesperia, you know. I think they really wanted to show, I think they really want to show that there is something similar to a bee, but because if they would you be really mad if she just called herself Queen Bee, and then people be like, oh gosh, it's Queen Bee 2.0.
I
So I think
wouldn't be
that's why.
mad. I wouldn't be mad, but I definitely would have felt like it's very unoriginal because the
Yeah.
entire point of Zoe's character, as we saw in the previous episode, was to be her own person outside of just being Chloe's stepsister. So if they just called her Queen Bee, I would have been like, this is a bit odd, but it's not enough for me to like be completely mad at like some raging Chloe stands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I actually looked it up. I was like, Vesperia. I'm like, is this like very similar to a bee? Because it's literally the same Miraculous but different. Let me see, where is it? I know I looked it up, and they did talk about, um I forgot who it was that they mentioned it, but they said it's literally like a wasp or something. Um Something very similar to a bee. And but overall, I think, like, I didn't mind it because I know we were getting someone else to replace Chloe as the beholder. Um and but to me, I think Zoe was like the perfect person to replace Chloe, and everything. So yeah. that's
Yeah.
that's my thoughts about Queen Banana. Oh, okay. Next episode is Guilt Trip. This is the episode where Rose actually becomes Pigella. Mhm. I'm very curious to know what are your thoughts on this episode.
Okay, so this is the episode where Rose becomes Pigetta. It's also the episode where Julika gets akumatized for like I've lost track of how many times Julika's gotten akumatized, but let's just say for the time. um, and this episode was okay. I can't actually remember why Julika got akumatized. Oh yeah, because we find out in this episode that Rose is quite sick. And I think it's alluded, like it's hinted, but they never outright like mention it. But it's hinted that Rose might be suffering from like some sort of cancer, if I'm not mistaken. Um, because yeah, she's like they state or Julika states like it's an on and off sort of thing. So she always has to go for medication, like not medication, for checkups, for doctor's appointments, for treatment. And it came to a point where like Julika just couldn't hold it any longer because it's such a big secret to kind of keep to yourself, especially when it concerns somebody that you care about a lot. Um, so she confided in the class, and I generally do feel like it's one of the few episodes where I really, really enjoy the class dynamic. Because I kind of miss that. Like I feel like we barely see the class anymore. Because
Mhm.
I miss the like season one vibes where the class would always hang out together. Because remember in season one, like um they had the class photo shoot, they had the episode where they were shooting a movie, they had the class representative elections. So I missed seeing the class just being together, and it just reminded me like, whoa, these kids are kids, teenagers. But I feel like over time we just barely saw the class as a unit, and we barely saw them in school. So I think it was one of the few episodes where I really did like the class dynamic, and especially when like Rose sneezed at one point in the class, and they were all just panicking and like, get her a pillow, get her a blanket, get her this, blah blah blah. It was really cute. um yeah, Guilt Trip was a very like comfort and enjoyable episode. I feel like people just hate that episode because of the amount of animation errors.
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get where people were coming from because I did notice them too. The animation error, like it kind of felt like the animators didn't check it, you know, where you can clearly see there was like a bit of animation error, but yeah, I think like I love this episode. In terms of like I kind of like how Rose didn't she didn't want the class to know because she knew they were going to she knew they were going to treat her differently, you know, and then as soon as she went to the restroom to comfort Julika, she's like, I don't want you guys to treat me differently just because I'm, you know, I have a disease, you know, I just want you guys to treat me as I am. So, um, and that was the main point of it, you know, which made a lot of sense why Rose didn't want to tell the whole class at first. So I totally get her reasoning because, like, and everything. But I think what was very interesting is that the pig miraculous powers. Like, what was your reaction to the pig's powers?
Okay, so the pig's what exactly is the pig's power? The ability to not grant, look within somebody's deepest desire, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like, and this might, a lot of people think the pig's powers is pretty useless, and you would only need it for a very, very specific circumstance, which I agree on. I don't think it's useless, but I do definitely feel like, when would you ever need the pig's miraculous? Um, so out of all the miraculous, I'm just like, okay, do you really need to look in someone's deepest desire to defeat them? Um, because I'm like, somebody getting akumatized in itself kind of already tells you what their deepest desire might be. So it was very, very specific to that specific situation, which was Julica's desire of Rose, you know. I don't even know what Julica's desire is. I just completely forgot. It's like flown out of my head. But I do honestly feel like Rose is a perfect match for the pig Miraculous, because you do need to be very like positive and have a positive outlook on life to be the wielder of the pig Miraculous. But overall, like, yeah, I don't. The pig Miraculous is a very iffy thing, because like, what could you use this Miraculous for other than this situation?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I agree with. It's like it needs to be used for something specific. It's kind of like you need to like it kind of feels like it needs to be cheering up someone type of thing,
Yeah,
in that type of situation. So I can see why the pig miraculous is not really used that much, because it's like um because the thing is, when a person is akumatized, they're it depends on like their mental state, and it was necessary to use the miraculous in this episode because of Julica's mental state. She just felt a lot of guilt, for dragging their classmates into it, and she's like I kind of feel like Julica is like too hard on herself a lot. Like it's pretty obvious like she's too hard on herself, you know. Um and she gets guilty very easily if she doesn't live up to it. So but yeah, I would say like the pig miraculous can only be used for situations like this, to cheer up somebody. But what did you think of the transformation sequence for Rose?
um, similar to how I feel about the transformation for Zoe. I think it really did suit her. However, I do feel like it was very forgettable. Like I can barely remember her transformation sequence. All I know is just full of pink. Um, yeah, and I think her outfit does like speak Rose. Like it's a very Rose outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have much thoughts on her transformation sequence. I do really feel like as the like past a certain miraculous holder, I feel like the transformation sequence do become a little generic. And I also feel like each miraculous holder um kind of just doesn't earn their miraculous. They just kind of get given it because it just so happened to be like somebody related to them gets akumatized. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Rose, I feel like Rose was the very, like, one of the last people to truly, truly earn her miraculous. Um, yeah, that's what, yeah.
Ah, I see. That's understandable, yeah. Because I know some people kind of felt like the pacing of this episode was a little off, which I don't blame them, Like this episode's not for everybody, and I clearly saw that when it first came out. Um, but let's talk about Duel. I'm very curious to know your thoughts on this episode.
Uh, is that the episode? I'm starting to really forget the episodes. Oh my gosh. Is that the episode where Jagged Stone and Anarcha are like fighting a lot, and it affects Julika because she feels like she's invisible, and then Julika gets her miraculous. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that episode. Okay. Um First of all, I really like the animation. Like I feel like I haven't spoken about the animation at all because most of the season 4 episodes didn't have SAMG or SAMG. I don't really know which one it is. SAMG's animation, but Crocodile did have it, which I really like. What I said kind of relates to how I feel about Crocodile in regards to Julika getting her miraculous. Because I feel like as much as I do really like Julika as a character, I do honestly feel like this episode didn't do her justice because she didn't earn it. And I feel like over time, the miraculous holders kind of just stopped earning their miraculous and it just became a matter of circumstance. Oh,
Mm.
Julika and Luca's parents, Jaggedstone and Annika, are arguing and they get akumatized. So the closest person that we can give a miraculous to is Julika. And I just feel like it's a bit weird because, like, yeah, Julika really does embody this, like, the miraculous of the tiger. Yeah, the tiger miraculous. And
Mm-hmm.
I do really like the relationship between Raw and Julika, how Raw was helping Julika, like, define her voice, project your voice, like, speak up. I do like that. But any, like, anything before that, it's like, oh, she never really earned it. It was just like Ladybug thought that Julika could benefit from using the Tiger Miraculous, so she's just going to be a good fit.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know. I just kind of felt like that way. Eventually, Julika did prove to be a good Tiger Miraculous owner, and there's no denying that. But it's kind of like Ladybug took a wild guess or wild chance, and then it just worked out in the end. And that's the thing about Miraculous; it starts becoming out of pure convenience rather than like
Mm.
something that's developed.
Mm. Yeah, I totally I totally understand. Yeah, because it's kind of like from one perspective, you're kind of like, how did she earn this? Um, how did she earn this miraculous? But I think, like in a way though, I think maybe she kind of but in on the other side of the coin, I feel like maybe she kind of chooses them depending on like if it will, because remember, Julika is very shy at speaking her mind. So I think maybe, Roar was the right choice for her because it's like, come on, project your voice. You need to, in a way, Roar kind of helped her. I would say maybe that's why she decided to give Julika the tiger. Because Julika is, she's very soft spoken, and she doesn't normally yell, and maybe having Roar kind of help Julika, like, come on, I can't hear you, so I think maybe like I do agree with you to some extent, like it does just come out of pure convenience, but at the same time, maybe she felt that having the tiger for Julika would make the most sense because Julika never really speaks her mind, but having that kind of helps her, like, and then of course by the end of the episode, she actually yells at her parents. She yells, and they're like, "Oh, okay," like because you could say that kind of helped her, like, helped her speak her mind. Because I was surprised Luca didn't say anything, because usually Luca's the voice of reason within the family. So I was just like, did they forget that Luca's the voice of reason? Or something? But I think this was more about like developing Julika to, have her own voice and actually speak what's on her mind. Um, I think that was the whole main point of the episode. Um, but do you want to know the most weirdest part of this episode that I just remembered?
What?
Okay, you know how like apparently in this episode it was like Julika and Luca's birthday. Like originally they were supposed to go to the movie theaters for Julika's birthday, and then they decided to do a house party because Marinette's been avoiding Luca. And then Marinette had the audacity to ask Julika, "Can you make sure Luca's not there?" I'm like, seriously? Seriously? They both share the same birthday. What are you talking about, girl? Why are you trying to make her twin brother not there. That made no sense in my opinion. Like to me, like I did not understand why Julika felt guilty for that. I'm just like, girl, why are you trying to do a favor for Marinette when she's trying to avoid your brother? And I'm like, what? Like her reasoning just made no sense in this episode. like, like it made no sense to me. And I was just laughing the entire time. I'm just like, seriously? Marinette had the audacity to ask Julika to not invite her own twin brother just because she feels uncomfortable around the dude. Like, seriously? I'm like, that's like the weirdest request to ask somebody, especially your friend. Like it was the weirdest thing, but you gotta admit, I did laugh at the part where Shadow Moth is like, "Yes, you're gonna get mad," and then they just get excited. It's like, "Oh, I should have known better." Like he was getting frustrated, like that no one was getting negative emotions or anything, and that was the funniest part. And then I kind of like during their akumatization, Shaoma's like, oh, they're just gonna eventually get tired of it. Like, he's just standing there, like he's just like, oh, of course, marital problems. They're gonna eventually stop fighting. like he's just waiting there patiently. Like that was the funny part of the episode. But the audacity that Marinette asked in this episode was just so unreasonable. Like, what? Who does that?
I don't even think she would like actually ask that. I think she would try to find a way to avoid him, but going as far as to asking, "Can you disinvite your twin brother from the birthday?" I mean, I can't. I feel like at first I was like, okay, did they originally just plan to go to the cinema and Luca wasn't supposed to be there? I think that's the vibe I definitely got. I thought the original plan was for Julika and the girls to go to the movies, and then they suddenly decided to have the party on the boat so that Luca could be there as well. Which, okay,
Mhm,
fair enough. Like the original plan was to not have Luca involved, if that was the
mhm,
case. So I could understand
mhm.
why Marinette was feeling a little bit uncomfortable because that wasn't the original plan. But still, to go as far as to ask your friends to uninvite her twin brother. It's just a bit like not one of Marinette's best moments.
Yeah, like to me, I was just like, imagine if you do that in real life. I'm pretty sure you're not gonna be invited to stuff if you do stuff like that, you know? Like, I was just like the audacity. It's like I get it, the original plan because Luca wasn't there and was most likely just the girls, But then it's like, and then the others decide, you know what, we need to make sure that that Marinette actually talks to Luca because remember Luca was feeling a little bit sad because he hasn't seen Marinette. And Luca pretty much knows that like, oh, I know the reason why Marinette's not coming because he knows I still love her. And she thinks she might make it feel uncomfortable, you know, and might bring the mood down. But then, like I said, the audacity was like, why? like, it's like I get it if it's change of plans, but asking your friend to uninvite their twin brother who literally shares the same birthday as you to not go to the party was a weird request. Because just imagine doing that in real life. It's like, I'm sorry, what? um, but yeah, it's not really Marinette's finest moment, if anything. Like that part confused me when I saw this episode the first time. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? um, um, so I was kind of like, I get it that Julika felt guilty, but it's like, girl, you really shouldn't be feeling guilty. Why would you be uninviting your twin brother? um, and stuff. So that part was a little bit weird on that. From Oh, okay. We are going to jump to Mega Leech. I'm very curious to know your thoughts on Mega Leech.
Um, Mega Leech. Which one is that again? Is that the one where Milen gets her miraculous?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I I think Milen earned her miraculous.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Like I genuinely think she earned her miraculous. Like she proved to, get over her fear. And she earned her miraculous. And she was fighting for a good cause after all.
Hmm.
Um, but in terms of the episode itself, it's not a bad episode. Genuinely, it's actually not a bad episode. It was just kind of like not interesting at the same time. Other than the fact that they were just, fighting against Andre Bourgeois trying to cut down the trees and turn the park into another building or something along those lines. I can't really remember. And Adrian, I do like the idea of Adrian not knowing that his father approved for this like project. And basically Gabriel lied to Adrian and said that like, oh, it's for this, but it was actually for this. So he turns against his father. I really do like that. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the first episode that we truly get like a concrete evidence that Adrian is a sentient being. Because I'm pretty sure that was the episode where, like, at the end of it, there was like a close up on Gabriel's ring, like his hand was behind his back or something like that. And then, like, the episode does a shot of him twitching the ring. And that was like the first ever episode that we truly got like confirmation that Adrian is a sentient being.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, not a bad episode. It was just like, apart from the whole like not climate change, but apart from the whole like fiasco with Andre Bourgeois and this like the people protesting, that wasn't interesting. But the truly interesting part of the episode was the end of the episode where Gabriel was mad that Adrian defied him, and then he twitched the ring and told him to go to his room and like just go away basically.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Milan did earn her miraculous because literally like the other classmates didn't really know about this project and what it entailed. And and both her and Ivan were like the ones that were protesting, and and it's pretty obvious like she wants to preserve nature, and by doing that, she literally she literally had to she literally had to conquer her fear, because in order for her power to spread, she had to jump right into the, what do you call it, that fan thing in the sewer or something. And then it spread her power where she can turn small, and I kind of like the cause that she was fighting for, though. You got to admit that Milen actually like was fighting for a cause that she believed in, and the show does talk about like, hey, we do need to preserve nature, because that is a huge problem in today's world. So it's a lesson that we can teach the new generation, that like, hey, we need to make sure we don't cut down all of the trees because they do provide us oxygen, and that's a true fact. Um, and I think the building thing that they were trying to replace the trees with was like, I'm trying to remember. I think it was bad for the environment or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was for, but I know it was bad for the environment. From what I can remember from that episode.
Yeah, I think he was, I don't know, like I think he wanted to cut down the trees to build a new like building for like a perfume ad. I can't even remember, I can't remember, for like a perfume ad or something. Um, and he was trying to sell the bottles for like a fragrance or something, and then they were like, no, you're gonna need like in order to do this, you're gonna have to cut down the trees. So this is wrong. Like too many trees will be like cut down in Paris, and we've already got a lot of them already cut down. Um, but I do remember there was something about like there not being the full truth. Like Andre Bourgeois was like marketing this idea as one thing, but then Milen and Ivan were like, no, that's actually not what you plan on doing. Tell the truth. Like you plan on cutting down the trees, even more trees than you need to in order for this to happen, just to make a profit. Yeah, that's what I remember from it actually.
Oh, okay. I'm just reading it. It says Mayor Bourgeois unveils a project that claims to improve air quality, but will actually cut down multiple trees. So basically, um, the front is that this is supposedly supposed to improve air quality, when in reality they're just cutting down more trees. That's what I got out of it from just reading this. So yeah, because when it comes to air quality, you should leave that to the actual natural trees, though. I've learned that in science class that trees actually give us oxygen. So what what they were doing was actually counterintuitive, though. You want to improve air quality. Cutting down the trees is not going to do that. um, So I can see why Milan and Ivan were very against the idea because, like, are you dumb? It's like trees are the ones that give us oxygen. That's an actual true fact in reality. So I'm just like, um, yeah, I start to notice that whenever Gabriel like does collaborations on projects, he never tells his son Adrian because he knows his son is going to rebel against. Like, haven't you noticed that? I'm not sure if you noticed.
Yeah. It's like he like premeditates his son's reaction and he's like, okay, I'm gonna withhold certain information from you because and I remember him saying like you are a lot like your mother, or like he was saying that to Cat Noir, but that's Adrian. Like reminds me a lot of someone, and we imply that Emily was quite like rebellious. So he knows like Adrian is a like his mother. So if he knew what Gabriel was actually doing, Adrian would like go against him. So he decides to like withhold a bit of information, and that's like the entirety of Adrian's like character, like Gabriel just withholding the truth from him in order to control him.
Yeah, because like you know how you said like at the end of the episode of Mega Leech, we do see Gabriel like twisting the ring, and that's pretty much the confirmation to show us that Adrian is a sentient being. Um I think we're right on the money that like he tends to withhold collaborations that he does because he knows his son is going to rebel against him and go against him. And which of course Adrian does in this episode. That's why like I feel like that's like a thing with Gabriel. Like he tends to like withhold information from his son because he knows his son is going to rebel against him, and that's why that's why he didn't tell his son about this, about this collaboration he was doing. um, and it speaks volumes when you think about it. It speaks volumes that he doesn't want Adrian to know about his exploits, and keep him in this sheltered bubble, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And everything. So overall, like I loved Mega Leech. I think it was a pretty solid episode. Hinting, of course, the first hint of it that we can clearly see that Agent's a sentient being. Um, oh, okay. Let's talk about Wishmaker. I think this was a very solid episode because this kind of later this story plot point in this episode literally goes into a later episode in season 5. Um, and I think that's what I love about Wishmaker, actually. I have to say that you could say Meredith was smart into having Luca for this one and just slide the what is it, the slider on the bracelet thing for the snake, um, to make sure if they fail, at least they can try again, or second chance. That's basically what it's called. And
Yeah.
I think it was a clever way to use the ability of the snake. To me, I love this episode. It was very solid, and I know this was like the episode where we get to see more into Adrian, where he doesn't know what he wants to be. Like I think what really hit was like, when they get hit by Wishmaker's power, he literally said, I think this one line where it really confirms that I want to be what my parents want me to be. And I think like he doesn't really have any dreams or ambitions or career goals because his parents, especially mostly his father, kind of control what they want him to be. And I think that was a very interesting way to do it by getting hit, by Wishmaker's power.
Yeah, I find Wishmaker a really, really interesting episode, and I genuinely do think it's one of the strongest in the season. Um, I completely agree with you. Like Luca being chosen to not be the hero, but like being chosen by Ladybug to, kind of be the, let's say, the hero of the last chance. Um, in this episode was really smart because like Wishmaker was a very, very difficult villain and very dangerous. So if anything happened, Luca will be there to reverse time and figure out how exactly we could defeat this villain. I I I don't know. I like Wishmaker, but I felt like it was so predictable because I had a feeling that Luca would find out not one but both of their identities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, no, like I really do like the implications of Luca finding out. And my issues is not really with the episode, but more so with how that storyline itself is concluded. Because it's Wishmaker in itself is fine. It's just like the continuation of Wishmaker is the issue, but that's less to do with like the actual episode and more to do with the later episodes. Um, but I like how it comes full circle that, oh, Luca finally understands why things had to end the way they did back in the episode Truth. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
fully understood. Like it's like, oh, now he knows. And I think there was at the point where he did find out. There was like he paused for like a minute, and you can instantly tell like, oh, he was reflecting on what had happened. And I really like that small detail. Like they didn't need to say anything. He didn't need to outrightly state this, and that. But you can instantly tell just from the facial expressions that Luca is making. Like as soon as he found out Marinette's identity, he was just over like replaying their conversation over and over and over again. And now he's like, oh, now I understand why um Marinette ended things the way she did. She wasn't keeping a secret from me. She was keeping a secret from everyone. Like it was not personal. Like she genuinely could not tell anyone. Now I understand the burdens that she's been holding and carrying, and now her burdens are now my burdens. Um, and I think that's why he decided not to tell her immediately that he found out both her and Cat Noir's identity. Whether or not he that was his decision to make and keep that secret, you could argue whether like that was not his decision to make. I fully think like he should have just told her straight away. But I understand why he didn't tell her.
Yeah, because I think from what I know, like every time he slides it, they don't remember, but he does because he's the holder. Um and everything. So yeah, like I agree with everything you're saying. It's like he could have just told her that he knew, you know. Um, but then again, I do agree. Like I love that when he found out both of their identities, he's like, oh, it's like it's literally showing because would you react the same way, if you were in Luca's position? Say, for example, you were given the snake, and then you have to observe, and then you're like, you find out the identities of Ladybug and Cat Noir, and then you just have that expression, which you start to connect the dots in your brain, and and they did a great show not tell, you know, because he didn't really need to say anything. He's just like that
Yeah.
that expression alone really captures. Now it's all making sense now. um so yeah, I would say Wishmaker, like, was a pretty solid episode. We get to see that both Marinette and Adrian visit a career expo, career fair. Um, so we get a little bit of that. So, so yeah, Wishmaker was definitely an interesting episode. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. I'm very curious to know your thoughts on Dearest Family.
Oh my
this
gosh.
this episode. This
I think
episode
this
was hilarious.
episode was the biggest debate in Miraculous history. And I'm not saying that lightly because when you hear the words dearest family, let's admit it, we all thought that Marinette would like we all assumed that Marinette was going to tell one of her family members that she's Ladybug. I mean, at least that's what I thought. Because dearest family, like that was very. I think that was the one episode where it wasn't named after the villain. So that's why we all assumed that it was going to be a very different episode. Because every other episode is named after which villain it is. So Truth Lies, Psychomedian, Wishmaker, etc. Like those were named after the villains. But dearest family was really like completely different. And I don't know, I just for some reason, and I know I'm not the only one, but a lot of the fandom also thought that Marinette was going to either tell Sabine or Tom or both of them that she's Ladybug. That's what I assumed. But then it just ended up not being that, and it actually ended up being all of them being akumatized, and Tiki having a like sweet tooth problem that led her to just like eating all of the, I forgot the name of the dessert or the treat thing that she was obsessed with, but yeah. So I don't know, I think I felt disappointed that that wasn't the case. Like she ended up not telling her family um her secret. And I feel like, I don't know, it would have been cool for her to at least tell one family member, because telling Alia is one thing, but telling your parents is something completely different. Her parents might actually provide a specific type of support that Alia may not be able to provide.
Mhm.
So I just found that concept very interesting, and then it was just never fulfilled.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Dearest Family was definitely a very different episode. And this is where we find out what happens when Tiki uses her powers without a holder. I was like, okay, so Tiki has a sweet tooth. Okay. And then I just like when I just love Melanie's line delivery. When Tiki's in like sweet sugar rush mode. It's like, I was like, snap. Like when she summoned a huge galette, I was just like, and then you just see Shadow Moth very surprised. like like you see from his perspective, like he's like, what in the world is going on right now? Because literally a huge galette is like causing like, kind of like a solar eclipse a bit over the earth. And then I kind of like how Plag had to explain it to Adrian. It's like, oh, looks like Sugar Cube's used their power. Sugar Cube? And then he's like, and it's like the last time was when humans discovered chocolate. It made chocolate mousse for weeks. like, um, and then like it's pretty much Adrian got the gist of it, where it's like, okay, Ladybug's Kwame is going crazy. It's all the sugar rush. Okay, let's destroy the huge galette in space. And then you see it explode, and then Tiki's like, oh no, I'll just make another one. And this Mela Lee just delivered those lines so great. Like I love Mela Lee's line delivery. It's so hilarious. um but yeah, what was your reaction to Tiki going sugar crazy because of the galette.
I actually thought that was a very interesting concept because it just proved that Kwamis are just as much people as like human beings. Of course, they're like godlike figures with infinite powers, but I really like the idea of Tiki having a weakness as not as silly, but like as silly and bizarre as having a sweet tooth.
Mhm.
Um, and the fact that she never told Marinette about it, and then she was like, "I was afraid that you'd think any less of me, or you'd think I'm weak or something," and I find that really cute. Um, yeah, no, and I love the idea of Tiki using her. I think in that episode, Tiki did use her powers of creation. She's like, "I am the Kwame of creation," and she made the giant galette.
Yeah.
And I somebody mentioned this or like I saw a theory and then I had to actually pause the trailer for the episode, or not the trailer, but this point at which Tiki actually summoned her powers. If you point like ever so slight, so if you pause ever so slightly, you can see like another figure, and I think that's Tiki's alternate form because like her Kwame form is one form, but then they
Mhm.
have like multiple forms, and I was like, that's so cool. Like she's using the full extent of her powers.
Mhm.
This must be her other form. I found that so interesting.
Yeah, I think when they reveal what they actually look like in season 5, when Plag and Tiki had to reveal their real form, I think it was hinting, because like I know that specific scene that you're talking about. That if you pause it at a specific time, you can see like a taller figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of like in a silhouette thing when Tiki's using her power and stuff. I think they were like hinting their actual true form, when Plag and Tiki like um fused together to form Gimme, I think it was just hinting of what they actually look like when they, when an individual makes their wish or something. So I think that was a clever foreshadowing, if anything. um but I think what was interesting, I think like when Marinette tried to stop Tiki's like sugar craving, she was actually acting out the way Tiki was when she first transformed. I think that was a very interesting thing. What did you think of that? Like,
Yeah, I also when Tiki transformed, right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, I also found that quite interesting as well. I can't actually remember how Marinette was able to get through to her. Did they use their Cosmo powers and went
mm-hmm,
into space? Yeah. No, I found that really interesting. Like all in all, I do think Dearest Family, as much as I was like, oh, it's the biggest debate, I think it was a really cool and fun episode, just not what I expected, which is fine. Maybe that was just me being delusional, hoping that she'd tell her parents. But no, like the whole Tiki summoning her powers was really interesting to see because we've seen Plag summon his powers.
mm-hmm,
Um, so now it's time to see Tiki summon her powers, and it was really cool to see. But I also like the fact that like she summoned the Galette and kind of like I don't know, it kind of had the opposite effect. Like using creation
mm-hmm.
caused destruction, and I found that so
Yeah.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they have specified, like I think Master Fu said that it's never a good idea for a Kwami to use their powers without a holder. Um, which makes a lot of sense now. When you think about it, because at least with a holder, they can control, they have control. Like when Adrian's Cat Noir, he can control how much he can destroy.
Hmm.
Meanwhile with Plag, when he uses it by himself, he can't really control, because remember, we kind of learned that Plag kind of caused the extinction of dinosaurs. And like he caused some major events in history because of his destructive powers. Um, but I think that's what was interesting about this episode because we can see even though Tiki's the Kwame of creation, she can still destroy stuff. But I think what was the most funny, ironic thing is that in this episode, literally Marinette's parents and grandparents were like fighting this whole time, and I'm like, have how is it they didn't even notice the huge galette that was covering the whole sky? I'm just wondering about this. It's so funny though.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, a very different experience of an episode, but I kind of like that the focus was on Tiki, and her sugar cravings, um, and stuff. So I think that was a pretty solid episode. Ooh, okay. Let's talk about Gabriel Agreste. What was your thoughts on this episode?
Okay. So I think Gabriel Agreste is a very strong episode. I actually found myself enjoying that episode um a lot. And I vividly remember it coming out like a week after Ephemeral, and I remember everyone was disappointed with Ephemeral. But when we got Gabriel
Mhm.
Agreste, even though it was completely out of order, um, we majority of the fans really did like that episode. I think Gabriel Agreste is a strong episode because it did justice to Felix's character, and I considered this episode more of a retcon of Felix's introduction episode because we talked
Mhm.
about in the previous episode of the podcast that the episode Felix wasn't a very good introduction episode for the character of Felix. And
Mhm.
I mentioned how like I feel like Gabriel Agreste was a better episode to really like that really aligns with his character and is more consistent with his character, especially with the later episodes. Um, I love how Felix gets to shine. Like he's much more nuanced and layered in this specific episode. He's not just the oh, I'm out for revenge and trying to ruin Adrian's life and I'm the evil twin sort of character. Like he actively has a vendetta against Gabriel, but he knows how to go about his plan. And that whole plan of like I think he decided to like cut Gabriel's like trousers or something. And then if it was the cut trousers, it proves that Gabriel used a senti monster instead of facing Felix himself, something along those lines. And
Mhm.
I think that was a very smart choice because it shows like Felix, as vindictive and like conniving and cunning as he is, he's extremely smart.
Mhm.
And I enjoyed that episode. It was also another confirmation that Felix and Adrian could be sentient beings.
Mhm. Yeah. Like because Felix knows his uncle Gabriel is very like he's very cold towards him, doesn't really give him a second thought. And then Felix is like, okay, I know he's hiding stuff. I just need to go about it in a secret way because, that's the thing with like the aggress, Gabriel tends to keep a lot of secrets. Like a lot. So so Felix had to be smart about this. And I do agree that Gabriel Gress was definitely a very strong episode, you know? But at least Gabriel kind of anticipated where he had to make a copy of himself so that way Felix wouldn't like find out. So at least that was a smart move on Gabriel's end when you think about it. Because
Yeah,
if he didn't, then Felix would have found out everything right then and there. And then at least yeah, this episode was very solid. So
yeah,
yeah, so that's definitely. Ooh, okay. I'm very since let's talk about penalty. What are your thoughts on that one?
um, Penultime was You know what? It's one of those episodes where it's like you can just switch your brain off and just enjoy the episode. Like it's not meant to be taken seriously. And I do appreciate that. Whether that episode should have been directly before the finale is a whole other question. But I understand why they put that episode right before the finale because like she was in the finale, she was going to lose all of the miraculous or have them stolen. So she needed to actually give away those miraculouses. um, I think Penalty was a fun episode. I like, again, I love the class episode. I love it when the class are together and doing, teenage class things. Like it just reminds us that they are in school, they're teenagers. So I like the idea of them going to the soccer field or the football stadium or whatever, playing football. Whether or not you can convince me that Marinette would be good at playing football with those shoes she has on is a different story. I was like, girl, you need to change your shoes. Like, you're really trying to convince me you can play football in those flats. And Adrian not being able to play football, like picking the ball up with his hands, is another story.
Oh,
But like, it was a fun episode.
nice. Yeah, this one was kind of like, I would say, like, one of its negatives is that they kind of like brought in like the rest of the heroes, without giving them their own specific episode to have earned it, you know? Like, but like, if you know what I mean, because like other characters got like specific episodes where, they were given the miraculous. Here, it was kind of just like spur of the moment. I'm not sure if you kind of got that.
Yeah,
So I kind of
kinda.
felt, yeah, I kind of felt like we were kind of robbed of like Sabrina, Mark, Nathaniel, Ivan. Like we were kind of robbed of them like having their own specific episode, to at least have earned it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because all four of them got it in just one episode. Pretty sure Ivan, Mark, and Nathaniel didn't
Mhm.
really earn it. It was just kind of, yeah, like you said, a spur of the moment sort of thing. Um, I think Sabrina did kind of earn it, but not at the same. Like she's the closest out of all of them. She was the closest to quote unquote earning it because I think she kind of wanted to break away from Chloe's influence and actually play football because Chloe and Lila didn't want to play. Um, so yeah, it was, I don't know, like I think it was the most disappointing because Mark, I really enjoyed the character of Mark, and I feel like for him to get a miraculous shows a lot of character growth, but then we never actually saw that growth. Um,
Mhm.
Same with Nathaniel, same with Ivan as well. Like people forget that Ivan was the first person to be akumatized
Mhm.
ever. So for him to get a miraculous, I feel like that comes full circle, and it just wasn't done justice. Like he should have had his own episode to get a miraculous.
Mhm. Yeah, like I kind of felt like the four of the like Sabrina, Mark, Nathaniel, and Ivan. How come they didn't have their own specific episode to get the miraculous? So it's like in here, it's like the episode was pretty solid because of the soccer game. It was very calculating and it was high stakes. But at the same time, it's like, how come Sabrina, Mark, Nathaniel, and Ivan didn't get specific episodes to them so they could actually earn the miraculous? So it felt a little like a spur of the moment, so it was a little bit weird in this episode. And it was kind of like, but overall, in terms of the soccer game, it was very intense. Like I really felt the pressure. But at the same time, I kind of felt like Sabrina, Mark, Nathaniel, and Ivan kind of got the short end of the stick, and they didn't have like a specific episode to them for each of them to actually have character growth, to have earned it. So I think that's kind of my downside that I didn't like about this episode. Um, and everything. So, um, but yeah, that's just me. But let's talk about the season finale, the two-parter with Riz and Strike Back. What is your thoughts for this two-part episode finale for season 4?
Okay, so even though the season 2 finale is my personal favorite, I strongly think the season 4 finale is objectively the strongest finale, and by extension, one of the strongest episodes. Because I'm going to count them as as one episode, because they technically are one episode, just split
Mm-hmm.
into two. So I genuinely do think the Risk and Strike Back um, are is probably one of the strongest episodes of Miraculous. I think it was so well done. The animation was gorgeous. I think everything, the structure of the episode was like great. Um, there was like there were moments where like the tension was rising and then falling, and then at the very end, like it rose fully. Um, no, that episode genuinely, I genuinely did enjoy that episode. I love how Shadow Moth's plan was actually quite of a threat because the fact that they didn't know about the akumatized villain until like quite late into the battle was actually pretty cunning. Because none of them realized like, oh, why are we taking this many risks? And then
Mm-hmm.
Ladybug figured it out when they were having the team meeting, which was really really cool. And the fact that it's a kid that caused the biggest threat is another story in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things, great things about the episode, like so many great things. Felix's return in itself is pretty great. Um, Adrian and Felix swapping places. Felix, kind of encouraging Adrian to, defy his father, and he's like, okay, if you can't defy your father, then I'll take your place and do it for you. Um, and then Adrian realizing like he should never have done that because like it was so many great things. Felix going down into the basement, finding Emily, and him discovering that, oh, Emily is in the basement and she's in a comatose condition was pretty great. I kind of wish they did something more with it, but that's more of a criticism towards later episodes rather than the finale itself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what else was really great about the episode? Some Adrianette development. Marinette being the only one to realize that Adrian is unhappy with, you know, I think touring. I think the issue was that Adrian was, going to be touring around the world, or I don't know what it was, but Marinette was the only one that realized that Adrian was not happy, even though everyone else couldn't quite see that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also I think the best part of the episode was um, Felix making a deal with the devil, exchanging the 14 miraculouses, 14 or 15, 14 miraculouses, however many it is a lot though. 14 miraculouses in exchange for just that one miraculous, the peacock. And by the time Ladybug realizes her big mistake, it's too late. And I think just the culmination of that leading up to the panic attack that she has, because I think that was the very first instant when she fully had a panic attack in Miraculous Ladybug. And we
Mm-hmm.
really do feel for her because it's like, although Ladybug has been making some questionable choices throughout the entire season, and not ignoring Cat Noir like deliberately, but kind of like sidelining him. And then we realize, oh, like we really do feel bad for her because she meant no harm.
Mm-hmm.
Her heart was in the right place, but ultimately she did get played. It's like it's such a touching moment, and I think it was such a well done moment. And then obviously at the end, and Cat Noir could have chosen to be angry at her, but then he realizes that Ladybug did everything that she did because of the insurmountable amount of pressure that she was under. So now's not the time to really be angry at her and go off at her and be like, I told you so, you did this, you did that. Like he knew like the threat from Shadow Moth is um way larger than ever before. So now's the time that we need to really stick together, as corny as it sounds. Um, and yeah, no, the ending of season 4 was just brilliant. To be fair, like I honestly have very few criticisms.
Yeah. Like I think it's like because the stakes are higher now because like it's kind of like you said, Felix pretty much made a deal with the devil and stuff and then and you can see this culmination in season 5 when when Felix returns as the new peacock holder and she's like showing how angry she is at him. It's like, why did you have to? She's like, I had this sacred duty of being the guardian and you broke my trust by handing most of the miraculous to my enemy of all people. And I kind of like how how the threat is more real. Like the season 4 finale is definitely like my favorite because you can see literally everyone in Paris is now scared. They're like, oh my gosh, this dude is more powerful now, um, and everything. So and it's definitely it's definitely a great way to set up season 5. And stuff. And of course, the next episode for this is gonna we're gonna talk about the season 5 episodes. But I kind of like how it sets up, season 5 already, where it's like, how is season 4 gonna end? We're like, oh, that's interesting. um, but what I do like is that like at least in season 5 we have a better understanding of why Felix made that deal with Gabriel. At least in season 5 they do explain it. It's not like, oh, he's doing it because he's being a jerk. It's like, no, he had very good reason to. um but I kind of like how Cat Noir is like, remember, it's you and me. Remember, like, I kind of like how they really go back to that dynamic because in season 4 it kind of felt like Cat Noir was sidelined a lot, and then like Cat Noir is like, hey, don't forget, I'm here. We'll do this together, just like when we started. you know and I think him giving Ladybug that, that that encouragement, it's just like, yeah, it's like we're gonna do this together. We're going to make sure we get all of the miraculouses back. So and it's such a hopeful, it's kind of like determination hitting in. It's like determination after losing the miraculouses.
Mm.
um so it's like a nice interesting, end to season 4 and then to start of season 5. So that's what I commend about the season 4 finale overall. So but I do agree with what you said, that like they didn't know why they were taking so much risk, right?
Yeah.
Because um because it was like a young kid who got akumatized. And I think that was very clever on Gabriel's part because most of the time when Gabriel thinks of these plans, he doesn't really, it's never really great plans. But this one, it was actually a great plan. you know, um, so overall, season 4 finale is like definitely like my favorite. And then of course, and then it would be season 2's season finale. So yeah, season 4's finale really sets up like the high stakes. Like, things are like high risky now because it's like, oh, now he goes, in season 5 goes by Monarch now. The dude just keeps changing his villain name at this point. Where it's like, what should we call him? Hawkmoth, Shadowmoth, Monarch? You pick, you pick and choose if you, but I think season 4 finale just really sets it up really well. And I think I was like, ooh, I'm excited for season 5. But don't worry, we will be talking about season 5 in the next episode. um, but what are your final thoughts about season 4 as a whole?
Actually, I wanted to ask you because it'd be cool to like kind of wrap up this podcast off. If you could give a rating out of 10 for season 4, what would you give it? Because personally, I think I would give it a solid 7 out of 10.
Ooh.
So I'm kind
Yeah,
of curious to know what you would give it, because you mentioned season 4 is like one of your favorite, if not your favorite season. So I'm wondering, like, what would you give it out of 10?
I would say maybe in between 7 and 8, actually. There are some flaws in some episodes, in season 4, but what makes up for it is leading up to it. I would say like the episodes with Felix kind of ups the risk, you know, ups the rating for me because Felix kind of was every time he appeared, like there was like story beats that kind of continued. And I think that's the strongest point, especially in the season 4 finale. He was the reason why Marinette lost all the rest of the Miraculous. It was because of him. And and you got to admit, Felix played his cards right. Like he was really great at that. So I would say like maybe like 7.5 out of 10 is how I would rate it.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree because, like you said, there are a lot of flaws in season 4, but then the highs of season 4 are really, really high. Like the finale saved it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, just episodes like Gabriel Agrest, Wishmaker, the finale, Gang of Secrets, like really carried the season. So, and like I said, like considering season 3 was not so great and was pretty disappointing, I think season 4 really redeemed um itself. So yeah, it was a pretty good season. It was the first ever season where everything was quite like continuous. So like there was
Hmm.
actually like a storyline rather than it being episodic, which I could appreciate because Miraculous had never really done that. So it's like seeing that you've never really done something in the past 3 seasons, it can be a hit or miss. And for the most part, I
Hmm.
think it was a hit. So yeah, season
Yeah.
4 was pretty decent.
Yeah. Yeah, season 4, like the finale, just like I would say whenever the episodes Felix was in, it just really made season 4 shine very well. Like we kind of see that continuous where in the season 4 two-part finale where he made it's like you said, he made a deal with the devil and um and managed to get the one thing he was actually trying to get. So, um, so yeah, like Felix really carried the season, I would say. Whenever he appeared, it's like he kind of contributed into the story beats and story plot points and stuff, especially in the season 4 finale. It like even though like it ended up having Marinette lose like the most of the miraculous, and that kind of carries into season 5. But he had very good reason to, which we will be discussing in the next episode. um but yeah, overall season 4 was great. Like in terms of like the story plot pointed ones that kind of led into the season 4 finale pretty much carried season 4, and I would say that was its redeeming quality where it's like season 3 was kind of hit and miss, and it's like okay, it kind of leads into Marinette becoming the guardian, of the miracle box, and then kind of led into all this culmination into the season 4 finale. And yeah. But yeah, we will have to end this fifth episode of the Lucky Charm podcast. I want to thank you, G, for for doing this fifth episode. Oh my gosh, it was great to talk about season 4. And, and of course, stay tuned for on August 22, this coming Thursday, will be the next awaited episode of Sonic Lore with Radar. It's been like several months since I did an episode for Sonic Lore with Radar. So it's going to be great to get back into that. And Radar will be discussing lore of the different organizations and civilizations in the Sonic franchise. So stay tuned for that. And I got some upcoming episode of Got the Spotlight with Liaserenityrose. So please be sure to stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Um, and the Tangle and Blaze, it's delayed to next month. So hopefully we can get to episode 4 for Tangle and Blaze. So stay tuned for that. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. And of course, I want to thank my special guest here, G, aka the Cartoon Hotspot, for joining me for this episode.
Thank you for having me once again.
Yeah, yeah. It's always fun to talk about Miraculous. With you.
100%.
Yeah, so hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.